Wonderful. Let's go. So this week was a full week and we did 2 Mishnayos, but there's so much depth that Baruch Hashem, we're going into it well. The second Perek, second Mishnah, second part of the Mishnah. Kol ha'amelim im hatzibur, all those who toil, invest in the tzibur, yihu amelim imahem l'shem shamayim. Their amelut, they're putting in effort, their toil should be done l'shem shamayim. Sheschut avotam mesayatan, the merit of the ancestors will help them. V'tzidkatan omedet le'ad, and their righteousness will last forever. V'atem ma'aleh ani alachem schar harbe ki'ilu astem, and I will make it upon you, I will bring upon you, I will consider it upon you much reward as if you did it. Now there's numerous questions on this part of the Mishnah. Question number 1 is, how is it connected to the first part? Now that's always going to be a question we're going to ask. We've mentioned that whenever within one Mishnah they include different sections, you always have to find either one underlying theme or how one part is building on the next part. But that question is especially strong here because here it connects it with the Vav. Here it's v'chol ha'amelim. So it's directly a continuation from the first part. That's question number 1. What is the connection between the 2 parts? Question number 2 is, we usually have a rule that, which we actually spoke about yesterday, of the concept of lo lishma ba lishma. There has to, the direction, this is exactly what we spoke about yesterday, that there's stages where you first have to build the lo lishma level, and then you can get to the lishma level. So why over here, when we're working with the tzibur, is there no option for that? It says, kol, everyone who is amel netzibur has to be l'shem shamayim. It doesn't sound like there's an opportunity of doing lot l'shem shamayim. It sounds like if you're not doing l'shem shamayim, you shouldn't even be getting involved. Why not? Why can't we use the same rules we used yesterday? You can start lo lishma and then become lishma. That was question number 2. Question number 3 is a grammatical question, but it's going to build a lot. Is the first part of the section today is speaking in third person, and the second part is speaking in third person. Kol ha'amelim hatzibur, that's third person, and then suddenly mid-flow it switches, v'atem, and you. Who are we talking about until now, and now who are we switching to? Kol ha'amelim, and now v'atem ha'ma'aneh al yanachem, that's the switch over there. And the final question for now, the first part of the Mishnah implies that we should be doing things not for reward. Everything you should do l'shem shamayim. Comes the second part of the Mishnah, you're going to get lots of rewards. I will consider it great reward, as even things you didn't do, I'll give you a reward for. What's going on? Why are we initially saying, don't do it for reward, don't even think of reward, do it l'shem shamayim, and then we switch over and we go to, you're going to get lots of reward. So those are 4 questions which are going to give us an introduction to our Mishnah. And today we're going to see Rabbeinu Yonah and the Rambam, who say different things, but on the same path, same level. And then like yesterday, we're going to go back to the Maharal and see a much deeper insight. Just in brackets, it's just interesting. The Maharal often writes that even when he says different Perushim, and his Perushim are often on different levels, he always finds one underlying concept that connects all those levels. So even though he's talking on different levels, he makes a great effort to show you how even different points and different levels, different interpretations that he's saying, they're just all building on the same concept, which is part of the Maharal's worldview, that everything is achdus and everything is one, and that the oneness of Torah, everything connects to everything else. So even if you're giving different perushim, they just mashlim each other, or they're building on each other. So even though we often in these shirim say like one interpretation, and then we kind of say a much deeper one, it's not chas v'shalom that we're coming to say that the first one wasn't valuable at all. Rather, it's the higher level you're able to get a deeper understanding of on the basis of the first initial level. So let's start with Rabbeinu Yonah. Rabbeinu Yonah, he's coming to answer the second question that we asked of why does it have to be l'shem shamayim. This is what he writes. Lo litkabed, you shouldn't work in community work for honor. V'lehenot, don't do it for your own pleasure. V'lo listarer, and don't do it because you want power to rule over others. La'anigam b'derech yeshara v'akol l'shem shamayim. Rather, you have to do it in a straight way, and everything has to be l'shem shamayim. Now, what deeply is Rabbeinu Yonah saying? See, if you're working for the tzibur, you're either working for the tzibur or you're using the tzibur to work for yourself. But it won't be called amelim im hatzibur if it's for you. Then it's amel im yourself. It's using the people, using others for your own benefit. So when you learn Torah, lo lishma, to come to lishma, there's nothing inherently wrong with the lo lishma. It's a stepping stone. It's not going against the essence of what it is. It's just one step to get closer. But when you start working with the tzibur for yourself, then the very thing of working with the tzibur you're not doing. Because you're working with yourself, using the tzibur for your own value, for what you need. So over here in Kol HaMelim HaTzibur, you are melim l'shem shamayim, it has to be l'shem shamayim. There's only two options. It's either for them or it's for you. The moment that you're doing it for you, it's not for them. It will be pushing you away and away and away. So when you do learning Torah, lo l'shem shamayim, what's the mindset? The mindset is, I realize now, at this stage, that I'm not yet on the level of learning lishma. But I'm not interested in learning really. So I'll do it for the sake of money, I'll do it for the sake of honor, but all along I'm realizing and I'm recognizing that really I'm waiting to get to the stage where I can do it l'shem shamayim. But in the meantime, the Torah starts speaking for itself. The sweetness of the Torah warms upon you. You become familiar with it, you become to love it, and you're able to outgrow it. But when you start working with the other people for your own sake, then the way you view them from the beginning is to take advantage of them. That's like what the Gemara in Pesachim, when it speaks about the stira between, the one Gemara says you should learn lo lishma, la'olam yilmad adam shelo lishma, because through learning lo lishma you come to shma. And the other Gemara says that anyone who learns lo lishma, it would have been better if they wouldn't have been born. And Tosfos there asked the question, it's a contradiction, and Tosfos answers, that's someone who's learning lekanter, when he's learning to use it to show how it doesn't make sense. Meaning if you're learning Torah to disprove Torah, you're not supposed to learn lo lishma. So that's the same idea over here. If you're working with the tzibur, but the whole work with the tzibur is going against the tzibur because you're using the tzibur for yourself, then you can't work with the tzibur. Same way as you can't learn Torah if your whole goal of learning Torah is to go against the Torah. So you can't work with people if your whole goal is against the people. Whereas you're using the people for your own agenda. So that's why it has to be l'shem shamayim. Okay, hold that thought, because we're going to come back to that and explain it more deeply as we go on. Then the Rabbeinu Yonah goes on and he speaks about the schus avos, which is not a question that we asked, but just throw it in there. Like, what's this middle stage? Why does it mention that we have schus avos? This Mishnah would make perfect sense without that phrase. What's it coming to add? Schut avotam mesayatan. Says Rabbeinu Yonah, she'afal pi she'atem oskim imahem v'tzarchehem nasim al-yedechem lo atem gormim lahem. It's not you. Ela schut avotehem shel tzibur mesayatan. And this is giving us a deeper understanding. If you work with a tzibur, you'll be successful, because it's not you who's doing it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes care of the community. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu will ensure that the community, as a community, will get what they need. The question is, who wants to be involved? A little bit like Esther. When Mordechai says to Esther, either way, Am Yisrael will be saved. The question is, do you want to be the one who it's going to come through you? Or no, you're going to leave it. Now, what happens if you leave it? Don't worry about Klal Yisrael. They'll be okay. But you won't be that conduit through which it comes. So it starts off by saying, when you're amal with a tzibur, you should have humility. Do it l'shem shamayim, because you should realize that it's not your doing. It's the schus avos, it's the merit of our ancestors that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has made a bris with Am Yisrael, that we are His chosen nation. That's the reason why all the shefa, all the blessing, all the benefit comes down. Now, at that moment, when the person reads that, he's going to be thinking to himself, oh, so why should I get involved? Why should I have put in tircha? Why should I bother? Anyway, they're going to get what they need. And it's anyway not because of me. So I'm not actually doing anything. I'm putting in so much effort and someone else is going to be accredited. We're always going to go back to the schus avos. So here comes the second part of the Mishnah. And this is what we're going to use both Rabbeinu Yonah for and the Rambam for. And they're explaining the connection to the two parts of our section. That's where the second part comes, and it says, Va'atem, and if you're worried about yourself, If you're thinking, why should I bother? Anyway, there's schus avos. Anyway, they're going to get benefit because it comes from the avos, the merit that Hashem has made with the avos. So here comes Rabban Gamliel, and he says, no, you have a portion as well. I make it as if it's your reward. And here, Rabbeinu Yonah is saying, is that you get a double benefit here. On the one hand, it's not just your level of siyata d'shmaya that you can help the community. You're going to have tremendous hashgacha pratis. If you're working with the tzibur, you're going to have amazing siyata d'shmaya if you're working with the tzibur, the community, because it's not dependent on your merits. It's dependent on the others' merits. Now that sounds like, so they also going to get the benefit in return. No, here Hashem says, even though it all comes from them, nevertheless, you get all the reward as if it comes from you. And therefore you get a double benefit. You get double the amount of success because their merit is in the Avos, and you get all the reward as if you were the one who did it from the beginning until the end. Tov lecha la'asok, mipnei zchut avot mesaytan. It's worth your while to invest in the community because you're guaranteed success, or not guaranteed, but you've got a greater measure of success because the Avos are the ones who it's in their merit. V'tatzliach b'ma'asehem, shezchut avot merubeh. That's the one side you're going to be benefited. And I give reward to you as if you did the whole thing yourself. And therefore you're getting tremendous benefit. That's Rabbeinu Yonah. So Rabbeinu Yonah is explaining to us what the connection between those two sections is. But in a way, it's enhancing our question number 4, which is, are you saying I should do it l'shem shamayim, or are you saying I should do it for reward? Here it's enhancing that question. It's making it stronger because Rabbeinu Yonah is emphasizing the last point of the Mishnah is saying it's worth your while doing it. You're going to get a lot of reward. And if you're thinking it's not my worthwhile doing it because anyway they'll benefit, no, I'm telling you it is worth your while doing it. That's Rabbeinu Yonah's interpretation. Now the Rambam on a similar theme, where Rambam's also concerned that you won't want to get involved in tzarchei tzibur, you'll be thinking to yourself, are you crazy going and doing gemach? Do you know I have a seder at that time? And I learn Torah during the break when they do Gemach. And even if I don't learn Torah during the break when they do Gemach, but then I'll be tired for the Seder afterwards. Are you saying, Rebbe, that I should take off time for learning Torah? Don't we say every morning, Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam? The Torah is the most important thing. This is the year I have in yeshiva. This is my opportunity. I want to just be devoting myself and building myself so that I can become great in learning of Torah. The Rambam hears that concern. And that concern is going to be a concern your whole life. You're always going to be wanting to do your own learning. You're always going to be wanting to do mitzvahs. Comes the Rambam and gives encouragement to people who say that. And he says a powerful statement. This Mishnah is Devar Hashem, the word of Hashem. La'amelim hatzibur, for those people who put an effort with the tzibur. Shepamim yimna'u mirasot mitzvah. Sometimes they won't be able to do mitzvahs because they're in the middle of working with the tzibur or learning Torah. V'amar Hashem yisbarach ya'aleh aleihem schar ke'ilu asu hamitzvah zo. This is amazing. This is supernatural. Hashem says that if they were working with the tzibur at the expense of their own learning of Torah or at the expense of their own fulfilling a mitzvah, in Shamayim it's considered they did both. In Shamayim they will get reward for helping, the actual physical thing they did of helping the tzibur, and they don't lose out as long as they're doing it l'shem shamayim and as long as they want it to be learning. 2 conditions. Condition number 1, it's they want to be learning, meaning it's not that I didn't want to learn anyway, and then I got involved in the tzibur, so I'm going to get reward for it. No, if you wanted to learn, and when you went and worked for the tzibur, you didn't do it for any side benefits of honor or money, you did it l'shem shamayim. If you have both those conditions, then you get double reward. The reward for involved in the tzibur, being involved in the tzibur, and you get the reward for the mitzvah as if you would have done the mitzvah. And just a personal story I have to share about this matter. A number of years back, I felt that I was stretching myself thin being involved with the boys, and I felt I wanted a seder of my own. And I went to the library at a certain couple of hours a day, and I sat in the library and I was learning there. There's one particular boy, I won't mention his name, I don't think anyone knows him anyway, it's years back, and he had a little bit of chutzpah. And he came up to me and he said to me, Rebbe, I don't have enough chavrusa, you're going to be my chavrusa. And I said, I appreciate that and I care for you, but I need some time where I'm going to learn myself. So I'll be happy to make a time some other time, sometime, but this time I need for myself. So then he went to who at the time was the head of the overseas program, and he said, Tzvi David, I wasn't a rabbi then, Tzvi Davidson's just learning by himself in the library. I don't have a chavrusa. So I didn't used to have a phone with me in those days. So this rabbi who was in charge of the overseas program came from his office and he walked all the way to the library and he found me and he says, what are you doing? I said, I'm doing Chazara above Mitzia. He says, how can you do that? It's a boy here who doesn't have a chavrusa. And I said, I know, but I need time to build myself. Otherwise, I'm just not going to be a Talmid Chacham ever. So he said, what are you here for in this world? You think you're here for yourself? You're here for being involved in the tzibur. From now on, you're his chavrusa. So I put in tremendous efforts of quickly finding him someone else. And I was not able to find anyone else for this particular boy. And we started a chavrusa. And we learned all of Maseches Megillah together and all of Maseches Makkas together. Made a siyum on each one. And Baruch Hashem, it was very enjoyable. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't what I had in mind. And that was a turning point for me. That incident was a turning point. I saw that as I'd put in all my efforts that I could within this world, within normal hishtadlus of learning by myself and the way I want to learn, and I felt that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was coming saying, that's not your role. That's not your purpose. And you get involved in the tzibur and you won't lose out. And here I made the siyum and another siyum, and I was involved in the learning, I was connected. I don't know if I would be more by myself or less by myself, but it was certainly a switch in my mind that my role here is to be totally devoted to the tzibur. And I won't lose out because of it. I'll be involved in Torah even more. That was the Rambam's message. Even with the Rambam, our question is strengthened again. Our question of, but 1 second, aren't we saying you should do it l'shem shamayim? And here the Rambam is saying, if you're worried about reward, don't be worried. Don't worry. You will get reward for both, for working with the tzibur, and you'll get reward also for... Okay. So now we want to go with that understanding and take it a level deeper. I'm going to go to the Maharal. And with the Maharal's interpretation, it's going to take us again. Maharal. Gold. Absolute gold. It's going to take us to a whole new level of understanding this Mishnah. But I guess I have to proceed it with the concept. The focus here is the tzibur. And there's two different ways how to understand the tzibur. There's an external way, you could say, and there's a more pnimi, an internal way, a deeper way of understanding a tzibur, which is the Torah's understanding of what tzibur is. We say that we received the Torah on Mount Sinai. We say that Hashem took us out of Egypt. But there's no one alive today who was taken out of Egypt. There was no one alive today who received the Torah. So what does it mean it took us? It means it took our ancestors. Not us, but rather our ancestors. And we have a nostalgic continuation where we say that it's appropriate as the great descendants and the progeny of the original nation who received the Torah to keep the connection going. There's a loyal bond that was made to Hashem with those people once upon a time, and we are their descendants. So it's morally appropriate from a sociological point of view that we keep that bond continuing for years. That wouldn't be a Torah way of understanding what a tzibur is. Because that's saying that there was particular people who lived then, they've all died. What continues afterwards is something new and different, just as a nostalgic connection because we happen to be the descendants. That view of tzibur is, there's many, many, many individuals who get together and form a committee or form a society, and then they call it a name, and that way they have more power as a group. But that's a concept also in purchasing, that if you get a lot of people together, consumers together, then they're able to present themselves to some company and say, we're bringing to your company 10,000 people who are willing to buy something. Will you give us a good rate? And then you're able, as many, many, many individuals together, you're able to get a better deal. Does that mean there's some inherent bond amongst you? No, not at all. But just it functions very well for you to work as a tzibur, many, many individuals pulling their forces together because they're able to get more benefit. So that's a non-Torah understanding of what a tzibur is. According to that view, you could have 600,000 individuals who would all stand at Mount Sinai, and 600,000 individuals would receive the Torah, and those 600,000 individuals would pass the Torah on to their descendants generation after generation, and there's no inherent connection between those individuals and the individuals today, but it's nice to have this bond, and it's nostalgic, and there's a nice memory that our ancestors did such a thing. So let's make a Memorial Day or an Independence Day, like Yom Ha'atzmaut, or you could call it Pesach, the Freedom Day, where it's like remembers that going back all that time. That would be a non-Torah understanding of what a tzibur is. But the Torah's understanding of a tzibur is something entirely different. The tzibur has a life of its own. It exists beyond the individuals. It's an entity in and of itself. I'll give a mashal for that. And this is quite a deep concept, but if you think of it, you'll recognize within yourself that it's true. Everyone here today is an age now, but they've been different ages in the past. And when you view yourself, let's say you're now 20 or 19, when you view yourself as a 19 or 20-year-old, then you view yourself as a 19, 20-year-old, but you have memories from when you were 6 or 7 or 10. Now, you viewed the world differently when you were 10 now you do when you're 20. But when you go back to your memory of when you were 10 and how you viewed the world, you'll notice that you still view it as you saw it that way. You still have an inner recognition of that's how I feel that it is, even though you're in a different place now than you were then. Let's say, for example, you had some little toy that really, really excited you when you were 10 or 7 years old. And now you wouldn't play with that toy now. But when you see that toy, then it reminds you of a time where you were really connected to it. And you don't say, I remember when I was little, I liked it. You say, I love that. It's not the 20-year-old in me now that loves it, but it's the 10-year-old within me now that loves it. Meaning you bring all your ages with you. Sometimes you act on the age 20, and sometimes you act on the age 5 or 6. You bring all your ages with you all the time. Now let's give a more physical example. This example I heard from Shimon Shua. I heard of a tape. This is my arm. Now this hand, let's say a hand. This hand is not the same hand that I had 5 years ago, because all the cells have grown, died, and new ones have been born and created, have formed. So there's actually no one single cell in my entire body that's the same cell now that it was going back 20 years. Does that mean that I'm a different person? Of course not. I'm the same person. There was no point in time where I said, oh, that cell's died, now I'm only 99%, and then a new cell was born, and then a while later I became a new person. I always had a recognition of myself as myself, even though the cells of my body continuously die and reform and die and reform. And even though my body is now an entirely new body that it was all the way back then, it still has the same features. It's interesting, no? It still has the same features. Why didn't the cells die and new ones came and I have new features? I could be more handsome these days than I was back then. Why can't it reform in a new way? Because there's tzvi. There's an essence of who I am. And that's above any individual cell that's born and dies. Each cell that's born and dies is absolutely tafel to the higher entity of tzvi. And then each of these cells becomes part of it and builds in. And what happens if a cell would rebel against me? Right? Let's say I cut myself, chas v'shalom, and that cell didn't fulfill its mission yet and it gets cut off, then it's cut off. And that particular cell is lost to tzvi. But tzvi continues and new cells will be formed and they will continue. Klal Yisrael is an entity above any individual in the klal. There was a bond that was formed with Klal Yisrael, really starting from Avram Avinu, but then as a nation at Mount Sinai, whereby everyone who's in that bond can continue being part of Klal Yisrael, living up to the roles and the values of Klal Yisrael. They could also choose to be an individual. And if they choose to be an individual, then they're missing the purpose of the higher form of what they are. And they might drop out. They might decide not to be religious, and after a generation or two, they'll no longer be part of the klal, but the klal will always continue. The bris that Hashem made was not with individual Jews. The bris that Hashem made was with Klal Yisrael. And that's the famous concept that we speak about around Rosh Hashanah time. How are we so sure that we'll pass the judgment of the Yom Adin? And the answer there is that any individual is not so sure. Any individual may or may not live. But the bris with Klal Yisrael is that the Klal Yisrael will live throughout all generations. This concept has a lot of depth to it. Because once you recognize that it's not about any individuals, but there's a tzibur, there's a klal, then you have to ask yourself, what is that tzibur? What is that klal? Like, if it's not made up of the numerous individuals, then what is it exactly? And this is what the Gemara speaks about and the Maharal elaborates on. The tzibur is Hashem's shechina in the world. And that sounds lofty, I want to elaborate on it with examples and make it more down to earth. He calls it the Merkava, the chariot of Hashem in the world, comes through the tzibur of Klal Yisrael. Now I want to explain it by using a mashal, which I think is a perfect reflection of this idea. If you think of Hasidei Chabad, now Chabad, they go out to many, many places in the world. And every one of Chabad has different things that's unique to them. They have different angles and different styles and different methods. And every Beit Chabad will have elements that are the same and elements that are unique to the person who's running it. They don't run everything in exactly the same way. So they have a side which is individual to them. But no one in Chabad is on their own mission. They all recognize that the Rebbe has sent them and they're part of the Rebbe. Now, the Rebbe is not alive. But there's the Rebbe continues. I'm careful here. But the Rebbe continues. He continues. There's a klal that was formed within Chabad, which is a certain principle that was one time formed, which all the Hasidim in Chabad now recognize that they are part of something greater. And they all go out to their different locations and they don't see themselves as on an individual mission. They see themselves as a shaliach of the Rebbe, going to spread the Rebbe's teaching in many, many, many places. So they don't see themselves as individuals, even though they're all doing individual work. They're all in different towns, different countries, different places. They see themselves as part of a greater entity, which really doesn't even exist anymore, because the Rebbe is no longer alive. But it took on a life of its own. It's now a klal, which exists independently, which they're all batel to, which they're all part of, which they're all making up. No one is an individual there in that sense. They all see themselves as on a mission. Now, Klal Yisrael, so Chabad, that's a micro idea of what is the macro of what they're doing. What is the major message of what they're doing? Is that they're bringing the Rebbe's teachings to all of the world. Right? It's clear in that example. Now, lahavdil elef avdalos, from the micro to the macro, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the klal. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Shechina is coming down to the world. And how does Hashem's teachings come down to the world? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu appointed 600,000 core shlichim. They divide up into many numerous factors after that. But every Jew is a shaliach of Hashem. Now, of course, every Jew does it in his individual way, in his individual style. But it's not that any Jew is doing his own individual thing. Rather, every Jew is a shaliach of Hashem. And he recognizes that he's bringing down the teachings of a higher form, of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So when the nations of the world look at the Jewish people, they say, there's the people of God. And they recognize that we are coming to spread the teachings of Hashem. Now, that might be through an actual teaching the 7 Noachide laws, or it might be just the way that we're leading our lives in our devotion to Hashem. But the very essence of what Klal Yisrael is above the individual. It's a primary Hashem's Shechina in the world being expressed through every Jew fulfilling Torah and mitzvahs. I think the example of Chabad is a perfect example. It's exactly the same concept. There's the higher form and there's the shlichim. They all have their individual style of how they do it, but they all recognize they're part of a higher form which they're devoted to and bringing down that concept. So now let's learn this Mishnah with the Maharal's understanding what the tzibur is referring to. Kol ha'amelim im hatzibur, yu amelim mahem l'shem shamayim. Now we can understand l'shem shamayim in a totally different way. L'shem shamayim means for the sake of Hashem. Because when you're working with the tzibur, you're not working with individuals. You have to recognize what working with the tzibur means. It means that you are bringing down Hashem's message to the world. You are the conduit of the Shechina. By you helping other people, being involved in community work, spreading the teachings of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or doing acts of kindness with other people, you are being an expression of Hashem in the world. Hashem wants to teach Torah. Hashem wants to do kindness with other people. Hashem wants to do that in this world. How does Hashem physically do it in the world? Through Klal Yisrael. We are Hashem's physical part, if you like, without getting too close to any other religion. We're HaKadosh Baruch Hu's expression in this world. He designed us, Klal Yisrael, to be the expression of his Shekhinah in the world. And therefore, what the Mishnah is saying is, Kol ha'amelim etzibur. Anyone who puts in amelus with the recognition that they're part of the tzibur, they understand this constant tzibur not being individuals, but rather we are formed part of a nation whose role is to be amel l'shem shamayim, to do it as an expression of Hashem's will. Don't be involved in the tzibur for individual reasons. I mean, you could go very base, like Rabbeinu Yonah is saying, which is don't do it for honor and don't do it for money. But what the Maharal is saying is don't even do it just to be kind and to be good on your own mission. Rather, when you're working with the tzibur, do it as an expression of bringing down Hashem's Shekhinah in the world, because that's our mission as a nation. Hashem has Shekhinah that he wants to bring down, goodness, blessing to the world, and he designed his nation, which live above any specific time or era. We're eternal. The Gemara in Tzemura says, Tzemura Tet Vav says, Tzibur eino met. The deer of a tzibur doesn't die. Individuals die, but the tzibur doesn't die. So when we say we received the Torah on Mount Sinai, when we say we left Egypt, we left Egypt. Who's we? It's like my hand. The physical element of the hand may have reformed, but the higher form of the hand, my features of my face, that the physical element has reformed years and years. But the tzvi who is here is the same tzvi years and years, the same Klal Yisrael who came out of Egypt and who received the Torah is still alive today. The higher form, not you as an individual, but you as an expression of the Klal. And you get to choose that. If you choose to be an individual working, then you're not part of that Klal. You may be doing good deeds, you may be getting rewards, but you won't be an expression of Hashem's Shekhinah in the world. However, if you have this mindset, like Chabad have the mindset of being a shaliach of the Rebbe, if you have this mindset of being a shaliach of Hashem, of being part of this tzibur who's working to bring Kedusha to the world and Shekhinah to the world, if that's the mindset that you have when you work in your service of Hashem, then you're working l'shem shamayim. You're part of a klal which is broader than you. You become part of a national mission which HaKadosh Baruch Hu designed us to be, a mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh. That's our mission in this world. Kol ha'amelim etzibur, yu amelim l'shem shamayim, sheschut avotan mesayatan. Now we can understand what that line is saying. Because the merit of our ancestors, who were the ones who first formed the bond with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's where this whole principle emanated from. That's when the tzibur was formed, with the merit of our ancestors. That's why Hashem chose us to be his chosen nation, because of the merit of our ancestors. And that's why we'll be successful in our mission, like the Rabbeinu Yonah said, because we're coming not as an individual, we're coming as part of Hashem's shliach, with the ancestors behind us, who were the first ones who formed this bond. That's exactly the point that we just made. Maybe as an individual, you're not worthy. Maybe as an individual, you won't be successful. But when you come with the tzidkus of the Avos, of the Klal Yisrael, Omedet La'ad, it's eternal. Hashem has made a bond with Klal Yisrael that we will be forever. It will never run out. We will exist for all time. So now let's go back to our 4 questions with that deeper understanding of the Maharal and answer them. Question number 1, what is the connection between the 2 parts? If you notice, the first part and the second part speak about Amelus. Yegia v'Amelus. The first part spoke about Yegiat Shtehem Mashkachat Avon, and the second part spoke about Amelus Letzibur. The Maharal explains that it's talking on 2 levels, the level of the Prat and the level of the Kalal. The first part of the Mishnah was Rabbi Yehuda Nasi speaking to you as an individual. And like we spoke about yesterday, you have a unique as individual mission. Hashem gave you a body, and Hashem gave you a soul, and Hashem gave you the compound of working with him together. And you as an individual have to be putting in Yagia, in this world, in your Torah learning, and in your physical work. And together you'll be fulfilling with that effort you're putting in your individual mission. But don't stop there as an individual. We're continuing now part 2. Recognize you're part of something much greater. You're part of a national mission whose purpose is to bring down Shechina and Kedusha into the world. And now we also understand, are we talking about doing it lishma or not doing it lishma? Why do we start off by saying you should do it L'Shem Shamayim, and then at the end we speak about doing it for reward? And also the question of why it goes from third person to second person. And this point I haven't said yet, I want to clarify this point. Sometimes when you don't hear about reward, then you don't think that it's a very valuable point. It's not that you want to do it for the reward. You don't want to do it for the reward. You want to do it for the higher purpose. But you want to know that it's something valuable to invest in. How do you know? How are you able to tell? What measure do you have to be able to tell? So here Rabban Gamliel says to you, you should be involved l'shem shamayim. You're doing it because you're part of the Shaliach of Hashem in the world. V'atem, and if you as an individual wish to know that it's something with great value, then let me tell you this. I will give you great rewards if you did it. Not because you're asking for reward. Not because you want reward. I know you as an individual don't want it. But to give you a recognition of how great it is. Now, one interpretation you could add to this, which fits in beautifully, is V'atem. Who's it referring to V'atem? The Avos. When you connect yourself as part of the klal, it's no longer you as an individual. It becomes you as a klal. And then you don't get reward anymore for your individual thing that you're doing. It's not giving you reward just for your unique mitzvah that you're doing, but rather, you become part of the klal. And the reward you're getting is not the reward of, here I paid you off because you did a job for me, but it's an inherent reward of recognizing you're part of a klal. I want to conclude there with a message that when everyone here is listening to this shir now or in the future, and for the rest of your lives and your talmidim and your children who you're going to share this message with, you're often going to be having that idea that I'm doing something good. I helped someone over here, I taught someone over there. And there's a danger always that you view it from the mindset of, I did a good thing, I'm happy I was involved in doing a good deed. Which is a fine. It's not arrogant. It's a good thing. It will even empower you to do it again in the future. But you're missing the greater recognition of your mission in the world. You should always have this concept in mind. Whenever you're learning Torah, whenever you're going and doing a deed, especially when you're working with the tzibur at large, where you're spreading Hashem's word outwards, you're spreading Hashem's word beyond, your mindset should always be, I'm not doing this because I as an individual wish to help alone. Rather, I was granted the merit to be a shaliach of Hashem. I was granted the merit to be part of Hashem's chosen nation. The non-Jews look at me in that way. That's why they fight me or they respect me, depending on how I behave. But they recognize me as the people of God. I can also recognize the gadlut and the greatness of what I'm doing. And that will raise my level of mission. It will raise my level of devotion as I realize that I'm part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's direct activity in the world. If you want to say crisply, I'm an expression of Hashem's will in the world. Hashem has a will that has to be expressed in the world, and He created Klal Yisrael to be the tangible, physical expression of His will in the world. So that's that concept of you are melim mahem l'shem shamayim. You should have in mind you're doing it l'shem shamayim, for the sake of Hashem, because essentially that's what you are. You are in this world, expression of shamayim in this world. Yeshar koach.